Good.
Okay, we'll open the meeting of the March 5th Winchendon Conservation Commission. The March 5th meeting of the Winchendon Conservation Commission. First order of business, we have a new planner, conservation agent, Allison Manugian.
Yep.
This is a new position the town created to help the planning board and the conservation commission work better together. Potential new members tonight. Did they show up? Philip White and Michael Memnon?
So I'm not sure who's here. I have not met Philip White, Michael Memnon, should be good to go forward. We reviewed, and in the packet you saw some pictures and things. Philip White's property at this point, I believe, has some concerns / violations that we'll need to resolve before the Conservation Commission, in my opinion, should move forward to recommend him. But with Michael, there were no concerns, so unless the board has specific questions.
In regards to Mr. White, I know him personally, and he did come before the board over a shed maybe a year or two ago, and I thought that issue was resolved. Is that the same issue we're talking about?
So my understanding from going back was that he did come before you for a shed. Right, currently there are 7 sheds.
Oh.
That appear to be, if not within the 100-foot buffer, very close there too. So we've had a couple of conversations with him, and I'm not sure how that will unfold. We're working to resolve that and figure out where things stand, but at this point.
Okay, I didn't realize that. He's a long-term businessman and that sort of stuff. He's very.
So how did the 7 sheds and the issues come to the attention?
Purely because last year there was an applicant across the street. So I happened at that point to have gone out and noticed there were sheds, and then when his name came in, I kind of looked up the street address and said, oh,
okay,
I see.
Okay. Well, that'll be up to the selectmen to deal with it, I guess.
Right, and hopefully, in the near future, we can resolve that, and his name will come back before us. At this point,
but there's no actual.
there was in the digital packet you got.
Okay, I didn't see. Okay. I missed that.
But there's not in the printed package.
Okay.
And I can forward that again if folks are.
I didn't remember doing it. I was talking to David tonight.
Okay.
That I didn't get an agenda. Okay, next we have the minutes for January 9th to be signed.
Motion to approve as submitted.
Second.
Chair votes aye.
Aye.
Oh, I'm sorry. Long day. All in favor?
All in favor, aye.
Chair votes aye.
Okay.
And I don't know what the board's past practice has been. I have a copy that we can sign.
Either or.
I
We
can
can
pass
keep
it
up
out.
with
We can
ours.
do it at the end.
Generally, if you have it, we try to take care of it right away. We'll
Yeah,
sign it. That way
that's
we won't
perfect.
forget it after.
Yep,
I'll try to do it with all the bills in here.
great. So the only bill at this point moving along is from Brianna doing the minutes in January. So I can pass that along for folks to review. I also printed out an authorization. I don't know whether the board has done this in the past. The Planning and Zoning Board have done this, so it's an authorization that would allow, in this case, Tracy Murphy, the Director of Planning and Development, to sign bills, or Kyle, you would be the alternate. It's customary practice. If the board is comfortable doing that and turning that over to Tracy, if not, we can continue to bring them in here for folks to sign. It's your preference as a board.
I think as long as it's just a standard bill, like a secretarial bill or something like that, if it's something outstanding or different, I think I'd like to see it.
Okay,
Okay, but yeah, for routine, which
Sure.
we do this every week and it's just routine,
yep,
or every time we meet, so I would say that's good.
okay.
April,
Second.
what do you feel about that?
That's whatever you guys make.
Okay, so it's fine, we can agree that she can sign the normal recurring bills.
Okay.
Can I get a motion to pay the secretary?
Motion to pay the secretary.
Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Sorry.
Aye.
Yeah, if you
Chair
can, that's
votes
the
aye.
next.
Order we, the secretary, you want me to say?
You started the majority.
Can I sign this one as well?
Yes. You go.
At this point, basically because it's a 3-member board with 5 slots, the 3 of you constitute a quorum of the board and have to
I'm new at it.
do everything. Nope, that's,
This is like my third meeting.
and my hope is, I spoke with a couple people that once we get another couple folks on the board, we're gonna do some training. We just figured that it made more sense to wait, you know, another month, hopefully, knock on wood, we'll have a full board at that point. to do that.
I'm relying on him.
Tag use it.
And next, we've got a certificate of compliance, 345-0442 Miller's Run Subdivision Road.
So I think you guys had spoken about this at the last meeting. Basically, the project is completed. They're kind of dotting final i's and crossing t's to bring it to town meeting in the spring for the town to take that road on as our official responsibility. So that's what this certificate of compliance is, basically that everything at this point is compliant with all of the conditions in the order that you guys had authorized. So if there are questions, I'm happy to try and answer them or get those answers for you.
We did.
No, I'm good with it.
Can I get a motion to issue the certificate of compliance?
Motion to approve as presented.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye.
Awesome. So this is the whole certificate of compliance. Your signatures are just required on the final page.
Next, we have a certificate of compliance and amended order of conditions, 345-0669 for Gardner Road.
So I don't know what conversations you guys have had in the past. Basically, what we have here is 2 documents. Because the applicant for Central Mass Tree is looking for a small business loan from the government, and he had trouble having an open order of conditions. So what we've done is he came to the planning board. He has divided that property where the project is ongoing into 2 parcels, which are a little different than the original 2 parcels. And that will allow him to look forward and get the loan on the parcel that has no wetlands and hence no order of conditions. I know April's looking confused.
Well, it sounds like he's skirting the intent while saying, well, instead of cleaning up the mess that I need to clean out, I'm gonna split the property and get the loan here. Is that, am I right in that, or is that?
I mean, the order of conditions will still stand on the portion that has wetlands. It'll just allow him to get a loan on the,
To get what he wants without,
So there's gonna be 2 orders of conditions on it. This is one just for the one parcel, and there's still an existing.
so there's an existing one that will, so Dave provided me with a new order of conditions that would be just for Lot B, and then a certificate of compliance that we would give to the applicant after he's recorded that. So he would temporarily have 2 orders of conditions, one on the whole property and one on a subsection of the property. And once I see evidence of those two both being in place, then we can release the first one that kind of ties up the whole property. So he still is going to have to comply with those orders. He's still gonna have to take all the steps that you guys had required initially. He'll just be able to get a loan on the value of the other parcel.
Just for your information, April, when we do certificate or orders of conditions, we usually put a timeline on it, so he's still gonna be bound to do what we ask him to do to the property, even though we subdivide it and isolate it, he still has to do it by a certain timeline, so he doesn't get out of anything.
Okay.
Do we have a plot plan of it showing which is which? I guess, I see what he's trying to do, but I'd like to see it my own.
Yep. I don't have one that goes with this. We certainly got one at the planning board.
Right. So how time sensitive is this?
I think he would like to move forward. I don't
Something
know.
like this?
Right, yeah, understood. No, I understand that. Yeah,
Through the
absolutely,
chair, if I
Tracy,
may.
yeah.
Do you want me to run downstairs and get the plot plan? You can table this until I get back and move on?
Sure.
I
Yeah.
was-
And I can
I would
get
just
it.
like to see.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I have no problem doing that.
That'll put
Yeah.
that easier, but
Where would that be in the A&Rs or would it be in the?
Yeah, no, it would definitely be in the A&Rs. Okay. Yeah.
Set that
Yep, so
aside
we can set that aside.
and move on to the next.
Yep.
Request for determination of applicability continuation for applicant Erica Niles.
Hi, how you doing?
You state your
I'm
name.
Richard Swalen, Erica's father. Looking to put a deck on the back of 62 Webster, and my paperwork was taken out of the building department by conservation. It was like this, there is,
You had two decks, right, if I remember right?
well, I got a side porch.
Yeah, so
Side
there's one on the
porch
side, one
that
on the
I'm
back.
trying to make part of the house.
right.
But
And what was the issue on this? I believe I missed that meeting. I know we
The issue was the deck was just a little bit, there was a question of where the wetland started and didn't. I mean, I think Dave said it was like 49 feet or 46 feet or something like that. I went by personally, you weren't there, and looked at it. I'm good with it.
Yeah, I was
I don't see the issue.
I went
It's
by as
just,
well.
it's just pilings going into the
what I'm
property.
getting at is that delineated line is 100 and how many feet away?
Yeah, but that's the, you know,
Yeah, well, according to the science in chapter 5, the delineated
140.
line is accurate, and if there's a problem
but it's
there.
the vegetation, it's not just where the water is.
Right,
So-
right, so what I'm getting at is, so when he moves it 47 feet behind the house, he's now made a field inspection of a 93-foot flag move. That's not normal.
Dave did it.
Yeah. Because there's the line, and when he comes and digs a soil sample at my property line, he moved the wet lines 93 feet.
What was the, so I apologize, I'm
Yeah.
kind of getting up to speed here. What was the original, was it originally flagged and he moved it, or was it originally kind of from the
Going by the
GIS?
delineated line and his site inspection, by what he did from the site inspection to that delineated line is move a wetlands flag 93 feet.
Who put the flag there in the first place?
There is no flag. The line, he just said, this is where the wetlands are.
Right. He
Okay.
walked
So
up.
his point where he put it is a 93-foot flag move on a site inspection.
Well, who put them up originally? How do you move a flag?
Well, there's no flags. He staked it.
You know what,
He staked it.
I think the bottom line is, we don't need to argue about this. I mean, I'm okay with it, you're okay with it,
Yeah, fine.
I've been
let's
out there.
just do it. You see what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah,
Yeah. I know, so I understand you have an issue with Dave.
yeah, well,
Okay.
hey, what he did is wrong.
Well, it's no longer with us.
I realize that, and I'm just making you aware of the problem that, I don't even know if he ever disclosed that to you.
So will that impact anything in the future for you?
What, moving the flag?
Yeah, in the
Yeah, it puts
future.
my whole yard in jurisdiction of conservation.
So
So the deck's okay for now, but maybe does somebody need to deal with?
Well, there's a host of issues. It's not just that. There's an issue of a failed culvert.
Yeah, that whole area
And
is.
it's made water back up behind his house.
Beavers, all kinds of stuff.
It's a host of issues that go way beyond this, so it's gonna take more.
Right, Lionel?
May I speak on that?
Yeah. Lionel lives on the same street so
I used to be on the conservation board.
for many years.
I had a talk with Bob Anderson. Bob Anderson talked to the town manager. The town manager's gonna have it straightened out. The culvert's gonna be dug out by the town of Winchton. It's town-owned property. It's causing the water to build up. So they finally realized it's town-owned property.
So the water was building up, he moved the flag after the buildup, which
So
then
it's
ended.
making all that grow.
Yeah.
All that wetlands grow.
Okay.
His land.
But the town's taken responsibility and said they'll dig the culvert, which will help improve your property, because the water won't come up anymore.
You're gonna dig that whole ditch out, all the way down to the runoff.
But the deck in front of us, I don't know.
He's on, his road descends to his property anyway, so he's got all the water from up high coming down, and
Yeah.
so it's a mess over there. So,
I understand what you're saying. Thank you.
so we need a negative determination? Can I get a motion for negative determination?
A second.
I'll make the motion for negative determination.
So you can make the motion.
I can't hear him.
You can make the motion, or you can second it, but the motion's gotta be made first.
Motion for a negative determination. Negative's good.
Yeah.
I second.
So my paperwork will continue on to
Yes.
the building.
Yes.
All in favor?
Okay.
Aye. All in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye.
All right, thank you.
Sorry for your troubles.
Thanks.
You want your printout?
You want your pictures back?
You want to pick Prince?
No, no problem. Thank you, gentlemen, nice seeing you again.
All right, Lionel,
Lionel, you're looking good.
I know, thanks.
keep on around taking nourishment. Okay, next up. Notice of intent continuation for applicant Sunken Solar Development LLC.
Good evening.
Right. State your name, please.
Yes, my name is Stephen Herzog. I'm with Wood Environment and Infrastructure, representing Sunken and the applicants. This is my first time before the commission, for this commission, because Drew Vardock, as the project engineer, was unable to attend tonight. But I did the wetland delineation on this site, so I'm familiar with the project and the site. Where I understand we stand is that Ty and Bond did a third-party review. They offered some comments, we responded, we just went back and forth. And there are still 4 comments that they responded to by email in the last 2 days. So if you'd like, I can continue. I don't know if you wanted to.
Do you have the comments dated March 4th from time, Bob?
This one? Yep.
Yes. Okay.
Okay.
You want to speak to them?
Certainly. So, item number 13 was the road detail. The gravel paved 2 system we proposed is appropriate for use on slopes by light trucks, including the maintenance vehicles. And the fire department stated that they would not require their large trucks to travel into the site, only smaller trucks. So that would be appropriate to maintain that road type.
Which bullet are you on, I'm sorry? Are you speaking to this sheet, or are you just speaking?
No,
Okay.
there's an email that was in the packet, I think, for March 2nd. It's also breaked out in there.
So I'm replying to Ty and Bond's response to our comments. I think it wasn't.
I don't know if we have those, do we have those?
So there's.
Oh, so the March 4th was
There's that
visible
set,
in the
and then there are
wetlands.
wetland replications.
Yes, so I'm sorry, there were 2 recent
That's a packet.
emails. One was March 2nd, which is the engineering, so the road and the stormwater. And the second was March 4th, which was specifically wetland application. So I apologize. I was addressing both of them because both of those are new since the last Conservation Commission meeting.
Do we have any comments from the fire department?
The second item on that March 2nd review email was with regard to stormwater infiltration, and the reviewer recommended the commission include a condition of approval requiring test pits prior to construction in the basins to convert seasonal high groundwater. And we would be amenable to that. That's our standard practice, is to do test pits before the basins are constructed and their final grades are determined. And then the remaining comments were from the March 4th email, and they had to do with the wetland impact and wetland replication. So this was an email with a long 4 bullet items. And the first one was with regard to square footage. The isolated vegetated wetland, IVW2, is 8,930 square feet. We'll be proposing a fill area of only 2.5 square feet due to the foundation posts, but the remainder will be altered by cutting mature trees and allowing wet meadow vegetation that's there and shrubs that are there to grow up in between the solar arrays. We put the solar arrays right through this IVW. My understanding was that that was accepted in principle by the commission at the previous hearing. We proposed a wetland replacement area of between 12,000 to 18,000 square feet. For a couple of reasons. It's available on the site. There's a big flat area that drains towards the wetland that had been extensively logged. Much of the site was logged in 2001. And we chose that range so that we could preserve mature trees. So the comment was that to require clarification of the size and landscape position. So we're proposing to put this replication wetland adjacent to an existing BVW and let the size be determined in its final form in the field when we preserve some mature trees.
For me, that's unheard of. Have you heard of that? Let the size determine itself?
I mean, I think as long as there's a range set, and the commission is okay with that
Yeah,
range,
it's gonna expand.
that that's probably okay.
Okay.
What is the area that, and I apologize that I'm so getting up to speed, so this is a replication of how big of an area?
The isolated wetland that will be
Yeah.
impacted is
That's the
8,930.
8,930, okay.
Yes, 830. But again, that won't be filled. It will be cut of trees. No grubbing, no grading, just put the foundation posts in.
And maintain around it, yeah,
Right.
okay.
That's that centerpiece, right, that was
Right.
going to be marked
I
out
I
as
did
well.
I did this on my
Right,
site.
yeah.
Fingers
So,
all in
yeah.
here.
That, a lot of that is created by prior logging, you know, rutting and stuff like that.
Right.
There is kind of a low spot right there, but the major problem with it is they went through there with a skidder like this time of year, and it's rutted up like a son, and
Right.
it's holding the
And they
water.
made some puddles
Right, yeah.
and skidder ruts, right?
Yeah, so it's really a man-made wetland, but the plan you have is good. By not digging it out, it's really not gonna harm it that much, so. Because that's probably dry as a bone most of the summer. Not probably, it is.
Okay, so that was the first bullet. The second bullet is the documentation of seasonal high groundwater levels within BVW number 1 adjacent to the wetland replacement area. We did not, during the delineation, document the actual elevation, but we did encounter groundwater within 12 inches of the surface when we did the delineation, which was in June. And we think it's expected that the hydrology to the replacement area will be the same if we dig down to a similar elevation. But that I would say is the commission's decision. If you think it's warranted to get actual elevations, we certainly can do that without too much difficulty, because right now is the high groundwater period. So we could go and get elevations right now before the construction of this replication area.
Do you dig for these arrays?
We dig,
Do you dig, do you bury?
no.
So what is the digging you're gonna do?
Oh, for this bullet
You have
point,
to
we just.
dig to put posts in the ground, in other words, to mount the
Oh,
arrays
for
on.
the arrays, yes.
Okay.
But, I'm sorry, but this bullet was pertaining to the wetland replication area. So, yeah, to install the solar arrays, they're screw driven. Depends on the site, but here, based on our knowledge of the geology, we anticipate there'll be screws that will go down, similar to the way a telephone pole or utility poles installed, but much smaller diameter.
I passed by one on the way to work and they appear to be 1,000,000 40-pound bricks at the feet.
Yes,
It's like that's how they're.
those are done on certain sites. We've done those on landfills where we can't dig because we'll puncture a landfill cap.
Right.
Or in some other area if there's something prohibiting them from digging. But these will be foundation posts.
Okay.
So what I'm reading is more a concern about an evaluation of groundwater level, not necessarily. The concern seems to be that you didn't do an evaluation of groundwater level. Did you do that?
Right. We did not do an actual measurement with a tape of how deep the groundwater is at multiple points. When we did the delineation, we encountered groundwater and put that in the delineation data sheets that it's within 12 inches of the surface. But we didn't do any more than that. And I think that's, yes, the point I agree that she's making is that may not be sufficient evidence for the commission to believe that our replication area would function appropriately.
So I lean with time bond, because we're allowing you to really use the wetland or replicate the wetland. That we need to know that our new wetland's gonna be okay, and I would recommend that we go along with time bond's recommendation, that you give us those calculations.
I agree.
Would you put that as a permit condition in the order of conditions that we do this prior to construction? Or how would you? That's the way we've done it in the past. But
So the commission can generally handle it one of two ways, either put it in the conditions so that they would be required to do that kind of at the appropriate time of year and get us, or get me that information before they get their final okay to move forward, or if you guys wanted to continue the hearing and hold it or something until they did that work and came back with that data.
honestly, we would prefer that you put it as a condition so we can close
Right.
the hearing.
Get going.
But it's not going to hold up the project because we still have other matters to take care of, I believe, with the planning board.
Okay.
So,
That was
Push too hard.
one of my concerns was I didn't want to hold it up, but I think, if it comes back that it's not doable, then that's a problem.
yeah,
I don't really think it's going to,
I don't think so
but
either.
I just play it safe. So I would recommend, well, I would make a motion that goes into the order of conditions.
Second?
I
Second?
second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye.
And then the motion, what I'm saying is we accept Ty and Bond's recommendation that it goes into the order of conditions that they provide us with proper calculations. So, we should be good. Okay with that?
Yeah.
You can.
The third bullet was the replacement area design appears to tie directly into the existing BVLD number 1, which it does. And they recommended the commission require clarification of construction means and methods. So the first thing we would do on the site is erosion control, and we would erect an erosion control line along that BVW 1 boundary. So we would put stakes and straw wattles along this entire boundary so that construction does not go into the existing wetland, but this area will be dug out to match the elevation of this without affecting that. But that was a good call because it wasn't specified in our application plan. That's standard procedures to put erosion control along that wetland boundary.
In terms of phasing, would that replication happen before the majority of the project or at the end of construction, or?
Unless the commission specifies, normally it's up to the contractor.
Okay.
And they have when they've gotten to that point, it might happen at the same time that they're excavating that stormwater basin because they'll have the appropriate equipment in there. It may also be a time of year thing, because we like to do the wetland replication planting in the spring before early June, or the fall after, say, September 15th. I think actually that was specified in the replication plan, that particular time. But that's not a direct answer to your question as far as the sequence, but that's...
All right.
Yes, planting will be conducted either in fall before October 15th or spring prior to June 1st. So September to October 15th or spring June 1st.
Okay, I'm good with your explanation of that, personally.
Okay, and then the last bullet was a whole bunch of sub-bullets regarding documentation and reporting. So the reviewer suggested data points and quantitative data plots in the replication area so that we could monitor periodically and report to the commission whether the wetland vegetation is indeed becoming established. And that's also pretty customary, so we have no problem complying with all of those if you choose to put those in the order of conditions. The last sub-bullet is we recommend the commission require a bond of sufficient dollar amount. No one from Sunpin, the actual developer, was able to be here this evening. In the past, they have posted bonds for decommissioning the whole project, so I don't think they'd be opposed to a bond for this as well. But I don't have a dollar value of what it would take to construct it right now. That's something we could obtain if that's what the commission would like to go along with that. It's also not every commissioner project with this requires a bond, because you're going to require us in the order of conditions to make sure that that wetland becomes established, and we cannot close out their certificate of compliance until that happens.
Right. I don't have an arbitrary number to come up with for that.
Like we've never done
Do you know what it feels to just in terms of kind of the order of magnitude that we're talking about cost-wise? Is it 10,000? I mean, not that we would set that number as a condition, but...
Based on past experience for a size like that, it's pretty flat, so it's not going to require a lot of grading. I'm thinking between 15 and 25,000
Okay.
for construction.
Yeah, I've never heard of that, requiring a bond for that, because you can't get your certificate of compliance without it.
Did, Bob Van Dyke's, we made him do this, the one we just approved, and we didn't require a bond on that. We just put it into the certificate of compliance, and they came back and showed us, you know, documentation that it worked. So I think that's, for me, that's, you know.
You understand all that?
Pretty much.
Basically, for every project like this, they have to do everything that they agree to do.
Right.
And until they do that, they can't get loans, they can't sell property, they can't do a lot of things without it, with that on the books. So they have to get us to give them a certificate of compliance and then take it off their.
Right.
They can't do anything with it otherwise.
So what they're saying is they want a bond on top of the
Yeah,
cost of this.
we never really required that.
Is there any way to wiggle out of caring about doing these things until you get the COC? What if you don't care if you sell, you're not gonna sell the land because the guy owns the land, if I remember right?
Well, once you can't sell the land with us with an order of conditions in place, and you won't get your bond back unless you get the certificate of compliance, and you can't do anything basically.
But if we're not requiring a bond, they don't care.
We still have the certificate, with the certificate of compliance not completed, he can't do anything.
But they're getting the power out, that's what they want, right?
But there's gonna be an order of conditions with a timeline. If they don't make the timeline, then we can impose fines.
Fines, okay, that's what I'm asking is,
Yeah.
I had sneaky kids growing up, my teenagers were like,
I would point that out too, not to get my client in trouble, but you could issue an enforcement order and levy fines, stop all work
Right.
if we don't comply.
Right.
so what if the work's all done and the company's making money and the landowner's making money?
And they can afford to pay the fines, I guess.
There you go. That's what I'm asking.
So typically too with this, we kind of changed our final checkoff for construction projects a little bit internally, so the building commissioner won't sign off on their final okay.
The bill.
He'll let them build, but at the end when he does kind of a final, with a building, it would be a final occupancy, a little bit different with a solar.
Can they connect to the grid?
They can connect and do their testing, but we won't give them their final sign off
Okay.
until this is,
When we say fine, we don't just mean a one-time thing, we can fine them
Right.
for every day that they're in
Right.
violation over the date of the order of conditions. Okay, so what are we looking for here, Allison? We need to close the hearing first? If there's no discussion?
yeah, I mean, again, so I haven't been kind of at all the pieces of the hearing up till now. If you guys feel like you have all the information you need and there are no more questions.
Well, I think we need to speak on this last bullet.
Okay.
And so I will go along with Time Bond's recommendation with the exception of the last, what is it, 1, 2, 3, 4, number 5.
The one requiring the bond. for
That
recommend-
required the bond.
Yeah.
Other than that, I would request to meet Time Bond's recommendations.
So if there are no other questions and you guys have enough information, then you can close the hearing and then you can have discussion internally if you need it.
I'm all set with this. This is a nice breakdown of what we want done.
I agree.
Okay, motion to approve,
Close the hearing.
close the hearing.
I second that motion.
All in favor?
Right.
Chair votes aye. Motion to issue an order of conditions.
So moved.
So he made a motion to issue the order of conditions based on what we have here in front of us.
I second that motion.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye.
Thank you very much.
Good job.
Thank you.
So if we can just hop back for a second, Tracy found the plan,
Oh,
the A&R plan, and then we also, Michael Mimnall has arrived, if you guys had any questions for him as a potential board member, commission member.
Will you get that over the way?
So who's gonna explain what is what on this? I know, so the question is, he wants one lot removed, which is probably where the building is, huh? And then
So originally,
there's still work.
you can see here, there's a deed division line.
Okay.
So originally, this project and the parcel that he owns both of these obviously, was two pieces. One was this, and then one was all of this. The way the order of conditions was written, both parcels are restricted. Well, that's open, so he can't get a loan using this as collateral. So what he has proposed to do, it went to the planning board, and they've approved this A&R, which is an approval not required subdivision plan, to allow him to divide it into two parcels, differently shaped, along this line. So he would have one that had, the upland, the building, the majority of his operations, and then another one that contains the wetland. So this would
Now I
basically
see it.
allow him to take out a loan with this as collateral,
Okay.
and that parcel remains
I just wanted to
restricted.
see it because I know
Yep.
they're still working in
Yep.
there. I
Yeah,
didn't
and
know
it-
where the line was or.
Yep, it doesn't change kind of the limits of the project or anything along those lines. It doesn't impact any of what he needs to complete before he'll get final sign-offs and that kind of thing, so all of the controls are still in place. It's really kind of a paperwork bank sort of.
Right, so why can't he fulfill the order compliance? There's a compliance order in it already.
He's got a certain amount of time to do it.
Right.
Okay.
So that order will be open, I think, for 2 years without any concerns, and he can't take out a loan
Right, right.
using the property.
Is whatever he needs to do to meet the order of compliance a massive project?
Yeah, it's been a
Yeah.
pretty big project.
It's a big
yeah.
thing.
Oh, yeah,
Is it possibly a thing, an issue where he needs a loan to get the money, to make the money to comply with the order? Kind
yeah.
of.
I don't think so. I mean, and that's not really our issue.
Right.
What they basically did is they changed the whole grade level of this lot. So the water used to kind of run this way, now it all runs this way.
Gotcha.
And it's underground drainage, it's kind of unique the way they did it. And this is where the 90% of the work is right in here, so I'm good with it, now that I see it.
I need is a motion for a certificate of compliance and amended order of conditions.
Try that again?
I need a motion for a certificate of compliance to be issued and an amended order of conditions.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye.
So what I will do is I will release these to the applicant in order so that I get back evidence that the first one has been handled before we release things on the second one, just to make sure that there's.
Okay, since Mr. Mimnaugh was in the opening meeting comments, can we go ahead and meet him and then go on to the next
Yep.
hearing? In case anybody has any questions? Mr. Mimnaugh, please stand up.
Come on up.
Good evening. Can you introduce yourself to the board, please?
Michael Mignaw,
Okay.
moved here in October.
Nice to meet you.
Welcome.
Saw all the openings on a number of boards and thought I'd put my name in on one of the empty seats here.
Thank you for volunteering.
If that's all right?
Any prior experience with conservation issues?
No,
No? Well, neither do most of us.
but certainly want to help.
Okay.
I think something's gonna happen in the next 20 years with this city. And with the building going on in New Hampshire, the straight shot from Route 2, with what's going on in the world with epidemics and pandemics, people are gonna wanna be moving out of populated areas. My daughter and my son are talking that with their kids.
They're saying they're gonna populate our area.
Well, I think
I
they're
moved
gonna-
out here to get away.
They're gonna be surprised. No, I'm saying there are gonna be a lot of people following that same idea of why some of us came here.
I've been here about 15 years and I've seen the traffic on Route 2 get ridiculous from when I moved in.
Exactly.
Coming this way,
Right,
Yeah.
right,
from the Pittsburgh direction.
yeah. We got a lot of people passing through that don't stop here. Our roads get beat up real fast by people who don't live here and don't stop and spend money.
Where are you gonna spend money? There's no grocery store.
Exactly. In one gas station, so, right?
We'll get a couple of those.
You have 20 pizza joints, what more do you need?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Hardee's.
Have you served any other public boards? You said you put in for different positions, any other?
Oh, no, I just had seen all the positions.
Oh, okay, so this, your interest
Right,
is in
but this was
conservation?
the one I was
Okay,
interested in.
yeah.
Right. This is one I feel that we can have a big
That you
impact
can
on
help with.
the whole town. Pollution, right to empty houses.
And you're currently retired, working?
Retired, yeah.
That's even better.
You know, so, come from a medical construction background.
Yeah.
40 years working in construction, home repairs the last 10 or 15. And I was a scrub cleaner in the MASH unit. If you remember who cleaner was in MASH, he was the one that dressed up in women's clothes. But he was a scrub nurse, that's what I was in the military. And I worked at UMass on a heart team, and I worked at Leominster for 8 years in surgery, and then turned positive to hepatitis B. Yeah. So figured with kids and a wife, I'd get out of that, and that's when I went into construction. So I understand blueprints, I understand, zoning laws and grade, water.
Okay.
things like that.
We do a number of site visits, so throughout the year, so.
Yeah.
After that,
Right.
we retired.
Yeah. Good.
Okay, it's really up to the board of selectmen, not us.
Understood, right?
We like
They
that.
told me to come here and introduce
Yeah,
myself
glad you did.
first. so-
Yeah.
Put a face to the name and hear about it. Nice to meet you.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Yes.
Good night.
So I'll pass along to the select board that he was here and that the consensus of the
I
board
think we should
seems
just
to
make a
be
motion
welcoming.
that I would make a motion that we recommend David.
Oh, thank you.
Second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye.
Have a good night.
So we can send a letter to
Thank you
the
for
select
coming.
board saying we
Hey,
recommend.
it's good that you got with me. Here's your new member.
So just backing up 1 second, these are the two forms for Ted Gardner, just need signatures. Sorry?
Who's meeting on the second floor right now?
At the school committee.
Way all the parking and stuff.
Exactly. Yeah, I don't know.
And the deal is, when they're live, we record, and when they're not there,
Right.
we go live.
I
on the
gotcha.
local channel.
I do know this. Sometimes in the open camera, I might not be able to show the meetings.
Yay.
Okay, so next,
So the next one is a request around 75, yeah, First Street. So we'll need to open the hearing, read this into the record, but their engineer called today and requested continuation to the next meeting. So we can just continue that hearing.
pass the reading down.
Yep. Packet.
Okay, so we have to open it. Okay, pursuant to provisions, Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Town of Winchell Wetlands Protection Bylaw, the Winchell Conservation Commission will hold public hearing on Thursday, March 5th, 2020, at 6:15 p.m. to consider notice of intent filed by property owners Karen and Travis Trudy for proposed work within the 100-foot buffer zone of bordering vegetated wetland at 75 First Street. Assessors map 2, lot 14. The project entails demolition of an existing single-family home and construction of a new single-family home in conjunction with repair and reconstruction of a small home. The hearing will be held in the second floor, or the fourth floor, auditorium of the Winchton Town Hall, 109 Front Street. Notice of intent is available for public review at the Land Use Office, Room 10, first floor, of Winchton Town Hall.
What's the notice of the next meeting, Allison?
Um,
And the date?
It'll be April 9th at 6:10.
Continue to April 9th.
We need a motion to continue the hearing to April 9th.
So moved.
Second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
We do
You sound like the last.
Now the aye.
Aye.
Yeah, because they would need a vote technically to open the hearing as well.
I think we wanted to open the hearing, we just read the reading.
We did, and I was thinking we probably should have asked if there's any others here.
But we keep talking because they're not here for the meeting.
Okay.
Yeah, so typically, I mean, what I've seen other boards do is just make a motion to open the hearing per
We've
the.
never done it, we've always just read the reading. Do we want to start doing that?
Yes.
Can I get a motion to open the hearing?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you.
And the motion to continue to the 20th.
Yep, that's all.
We've already-
Okay, so next we have a notice of intent hearing for Shaughnessy Bain.
Yep.
This will need to be read. Continuation. Is that in the packet?
It is.
It's in here.
I pass it over as well. So this would be the same thing, the motion to open the hearing
Motion to open here.
per, and then it gets read.
Okay.
The motion to open the hearing has been moved.
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye.
Okay, pursuant to provisions of Mass General Law, Chapter 131, and Section 40 of the Town of Winchton Wetlands Protection Bylaw, Winchton Conservation Commission will hold public hearing on Thursday, March 5th, 2020, 6:20 p.m. to consider notice of intent filed by property owner Shaughnessy Bain for proposed work within a 100-foot buffer zone bordering vegetated wetlands on Hill Street. Assessors map 8, lot 17. Each project includes construction of a new single-home, family home, driveway, and septic with a new grade. The hearing will be held on the second floor auditorium of Winchton Town Hall, 109 Front Street. The notice of intent is available for public review at the Land Use Office, Room 10, first floor of Winchton Town Hall. Okay.
Hi, my name is Julian Votruba from New England Environmental Design. I'm working for Sean on the proposed project. We have, this is one plan that shows everything together. They're all individual lots, so I thought it might be easier for us to all see it. We've got 4 lots. This is the wetland in green. That's the BPW that we're protecting. So I guess we'll start with lot number 2, if that's okay. proposing a single-family home on this property. These lots have been created and have been endorsed by the planning board, so they do exist. These septic systems have been designed and approved. I believe they're approved by the.
I don't know if they've been approved yet, but they have them. I think they are. They're all set.
They're in the process. So the soil tests were done and designs were done under Title V, all minimum setbacks and everything that's required in Title V. And then all the plans were designed in conformance with yours wetland bylaw, which has this orange line is the 50-foot no-touch zone, and then this light black line is the 75-foot no permanent structure
It's like our
zone.
wetlands, wetlands.
And then the dark black line is the 100-foot line right here.
Right.
So we've kept all the permanent structures out of the 75-foot zone. We've kept and I've shaded it, and on the plans you have, they're a larger scale, so you can see all this, but we've honored the intent of keeping everything out of where you don't want it.
So just to interrupt for 1 second, Julie, and I apologize. There are the full-size set of plans here. You guys can look at one for each
But
lot.
those are set,
And
those
then-
are like individual
One for
of each
each, right,
lot.
so this is a package, not.
Right, yeah, you have to share together. And then in your packet are kind of the 11 by 17 versions thereof.
Okay, so I guess that's, we're asking for the board to consider this application and issue us an order of conditions to be able to build a single-family home on lot number 2.
Parcel 17, which one is parcel 17? Is that lot number 2? Not the whole parcel?
That might be the assessor's parcel, when it was one whole piece,
Right.
because now it's been subdivided through the planning board, so the parcel numbers probably haven't been assigned yet,
Correct.
because it's so new. So, it's all under this one deed, so all the orders will go under the.
The comments there?
So at this point, it looks like everything is outside of the 50-foot no disturb. There would be, looks like the driveway would be within the 100 and the garage.
You got the garage in between the 100 and the 75.
Right.
Yep.
And then these are all, at this point, all staked out in the field. The corners of the house, the wetlands, and the center lines of the driveways. And then Sean and I did a walk the other day and confirmed that there were no wetland flagging issues
It's all
or
outside
anything
of
like
the
that.
75, so.
No, I mean, I would need more time than just like.
Yeah, let's give you a quick explanation.
Yeah.
We've got three buffer zones. We got the 50, the 100, and the 75.
This may even help because it's color.
Yeah, so,
You're saying I need to get my crayons.
That's okay, this
They're a
is my favorite
powerful
part of the
engineering
job.
tool.
We're looking at this lot here, so I'll just kind of walk you through. This is the lot line. That's the piece of land for this lot. This yellow is the house.
Right.
This is the driveway going on to Hale Street. This is the septic system under Title V.
And that's not encroaching.
No, this is the wetland. Here are your 50-foot do not touch.
Right.
We're not touching anything in that. Then you have a 75-foot where we can't put the building or any permanent structure, barn.
You have to stay outside of 75.
No.
The 50 is no touch.
No
Right.
touch.
The 75 is no build.
Okay.
And 100 foot is our jurisdiction.
Right.
regional.
Oh, I'm looking, so I didn't see this. This
Yeah.
is what, okay, that's
So
what I was
we've kept,
confused.
I've
Okay, gotcha,
made sure to
gotcha.
keep everything else, so that there's no
Beautiful,
issues.
Generally septic, as long as it's not egregious, gets approved. Title V kind of rules. Yeah,
Because they do the soil test, the perk test, everything, right?
We've never declined a Title V vote, because they kind of, you can't have the structure.
And this pink is the actual limit of work and hay bale.
If you don't approve a septic, that means you're denying occupancy, and you're basically
Right.
taking the land, so you guys don't have the septic. So as long as it's not egregious. So he's encroaching a little bit here on the 100, which isn't bad. We got the garage going in here, which was of concern, because it's between the 100 and the 75.
Right,
That's our jurisdiction.
right.
So generally, when they encroach, depending on what it is, we do things like we'll make them give us something, like we'll say, create a permanent area on your deed where you have no, you can't
Gotcha.
build. That's like a quid pro quo, if you will.
Plant blueberry bushes and
Yeah.
leave it alone, gotcha, yeah.
So that means that, like, we can say no permanent structures on the rest of the property that are on the deed, for instance. You know, if they're given that,
Right,
you know, we give that up.
right.
So it's just a quick rundown, 50, 75, 100, no touch, no build, and that's under record section.
So with you guys and your two expertise, you're not concerned with this at all? This is okay with you?
It's outside of it.
Okay, good. Okay. So we'll look at the others while you're
Or do we wanna go one?
Yeah, we'll go 1, 2, 3, so we gotta approve them all individually.
I was just gonna look at it that way, you don't have to bring it back over.
Okay, no, I don't know if anyone in the audience wants to see it, or anybody here for that
Do you have
together?
any butters for this?
That way you guys can see it
Oh,
easier.
that's the other
That's why I
thing.
do a color, because it really makes a difference.
Are there any abutments, any properties?
What do you mean?
Like, is there a guy right here or right there?
This is our property, Sean owns all this, this is in the butter, and this is the butter.
But they're woodlands. I mean, there's a house below it, there's not, well.
Right.
Yeah, you're not, there's a lot of woods in between each house.
Right.
Oh, so you've actually done like, almost like a site, okay.
Okay, so now we'll
They're working with.
Yeah, we put the flags in.
move to lot number 3, which is pretty much opposite of this. Here's the wetland again, here's your 50-foot do not touch, here's your 75-foot no permanent structure, which this house is further away. The driveway comes up here, goes into the house, and this is again another, I believe it's, I haven't heard any feedback differently that it was approved, so that's a Title 5 subdivision. So again, we're not touching anything in this resource area.
What's your driveway gonna be made of?
We assume eventually it's probably going to be paved, but it may be gravel for a while.
You're putting a lot of non-permanent service right next to the 50-foot.
That's why we're trying to hold out which side of it.
It's about as tight as you can get to the property line, right?
Right.
No setbacks.
Because we have minimum of 200 foot of frontage. It's very, very difficult rules, very good rules. You got 200 foot of frontage and you have a squareness ratio, which is a,
We had fun with that one.
that was a puzzle. That was a extreme creativity. But it works.
Came up with that one.
It works and it makes the lots pretty much what the town wanted, you know?
I think that it's not a problem, you know, there's so much, this is really a hilly area, there's a lot of runoff that comes out through here, especially coming this way, so.
Yeah, no, it's nothing that way.
So for the houses, is the runoff coming in towards here?
No, there's no low spot right here, and then there's a low spot there, so they're pretty good.
Yeah, what's real good
I
is
know it pretty well.
your bylaw with the 50-foot untouched, that's,
Protects a lot.
I'm gonna say this
So
is
you got
the
100 feet,
first
really.
and only town I've ever encountered that.
It is, it's probably one of those strictest bylaws.
Yeah, I have not seen that
Some
anywhere, so that's
people pull
good.
their hair out over it.
And what was good is that we were able to incorporate from the beginning, when Sean bought this as one blank piece of paper, he knew these are the rules, so we gotta follow them, so we're able to do it.
Are we all good with lot 2?
I have, yeah.
Lot.
Now we're going to lot 4.
How about this?
Oh,
Lot 4 line. Have any concerns about that? My only concern was the driveway being so close to the 50. I see your setbacks are really tight.
Yeah, we're right on it, so to make it, these,
Oh, this is
this
the
extra
lot line
100
right
feet
there.
really squeezes,
Is this the lot line? right
that's the
here?
lot line.
That's really, that one's really tight. That's it.
It's almost the same thing, April. It's 50, 75, and 100.
Right.
Approach is just on the 100 with the garage.
Yep. Like I said, the pink line is the limited work and the final siltation, to make sure that nothing goes this way, so we go further on this side. Yeah, we are tight because of the proximity of the property lines.
So you,
And these are just 200 feet, so this scale makes it look like it's tight, but this is a big piece of property.
How many total acres?
34, I think.
34, yeah. that
Yeah,
was a big
I'm keeping
piece.
most of them
Right.
up through the back.
This
On the
last lot
last
has
lot's mine.
the whole last piece.
So this is silt fence and hay bales?
Yep,
Okay.
yep.
All right, I'm good with this one. You both good with this one?
Yeah.
How about this one?
I didn't have any problems with that one in the first place.
Same thing we have with the building, again, we're limited, we're really being careful to keep that 50 foot and the building outside, so driveway comes here, septic is here, the well is here, and
These property lines are all staked?
those houses were all staked out and we're able
The
to,
driveways are staked out too.
and the driveway was
Center
staked
lines.
out so you can see where they were. So
All
that.
right, so look like we're good with those three, and now the fourth one?
Now, the fourth one is a little different situation. We can talk about it because this was a piece of land that prior to Sean buying it, there's a driveway that goes all the way, throughout this property that was able to be used. So I wanted to utilize that driveway because it's already there, a portion of it's already there. And this is already cleared, this is not because of Sean, this was done prior to him buying it. When they forested this, they cleared it pretty close to this wetland.
Up in the
The
50.
foresters.
And there's two stone walls here, so it's a real, this wetland here, I think if something downstream here, there's a couple of trees that fell over. I think when this wetland was, these two walls were built on both sides of that wetland. It's a pretty good depression in there.
Yeah.
That brings all the water down, but because something blocked here, it kind of squeezed out on this side, but we're honoring that and we're protecting that. So I put the pink line right along the edge of that existing driveway so that we can just, it's gonna have to put some gravel on. I don't know if you're looking to pave your driveway or to keep it gravel.
At some point, I'm gonna pave it.
So this is 75. What is this?
This is, no, 75. This is the 75. This is the 50 foot.
This is the 50.
The shaded area is 50. The pink is the erosion control.
Oh,
Because we're gonna put some gravel on here. So we're gonna kick this end out, so I decided to kick this out a little bit further this way. This is where it exists now. But as we come in here to get into the type of the house that he wants the garage is here, so we're gonna utilize that piece of the driveway that's there.
So the existing is here, the.
Right, we're gonna
entry
slide
is
that
gonna be
entrance
here.
out a little
Gotcha,
bit.
and then you're gonna put erosion control there?
Yep,
Okay.
yeah.
And the driveway, just this side?
This is a little side, and then it comes out, and the house, and the septic, and the well, and everything are outside. And we're limited, we can't slide it this way, because this is an old power line easement, National Grid power line easement. So we can't move that way
Right.
with the house. So you've got your 50 foot no touch, they
You
got
can't
their,
swing sides with the driveway either.
right,
Oh, I see what you're saying.
That's what I would suggest.
right, and, right, because of the frontage, the driveway is
This is the 75.
correct.
And your driveway's gonna go into the 50.
There's
It's
a
pre-existing.
but it's there.
But
What's
it's
it made of?
gravel
It's just
now.
gravel.
No, it's just a cart road.
Yeah,
The car road.
But then he wants to put, you want to asphalt down.
yeah, eventually, yeah.
We couldn't flip it because.
I know what it is, I've been with this.
Right, yeah.
I mean, you could drive it with a four-wheel drive, but you don't bring a car down
Yeah, I've driven out there with my truck.
it. Yeah.
You can't bump it over anymore.
And he's gonna have, he's gonna have to go like this somehow or another. We can't allow that. Yeah. I think you're gonna have to move your driveway.
Especially if you count the
somehow.
paving, you can't allow paving within the
Yeah.
50 foot.
Yeah.
You could probably snake your driveway between the 50 and 75.
Well, could we have a little bit of concession up in here for the turnaround to get into the garage? That's the tiny.
So if you read the bylaw says if we give a concession to let you go inside the 50, you have to give something beneficial to the community.
I have 20 extra acres I don't plan on doing anything with.
That won't happen. Our current selectmen are not.
We gotta check.
I know
How
what you're
about this? You got a
saying.
checkbook?
Normally, we would do that.
Yeah,
We would
it's
check
not
that.
possible to flip
Um,
the design.
No, because
This way.
this.
No easement.
No, I mean like
Right,
this,
but
in
we-
the same
Our
footprint.
driveway, this is the New England Power.
Yeah.
What about a driveway that goes like, what I'm saying is like.
Well, the garage is coming into the side of this particular design, so we can't
How
get
much,
it.
that's how many feet? Right?
That's about 30 feet right there.
And you can't.
Yeah, I know what you wanna do. you wanna do this, right?
Right.
So what would be a concession, just so that it's on the table, so that if it's something that,
Make it go in there.
Because what I wouldn't like about doing that is parking vehicles outside.
That's the
inside
other
of
thing.
that.
That close to the wetland.
Because even if you're a responsible guy, the next guy has 4 cars that leak oil and gas and everything else down the driveway, and it's right into the, you know what I'm
Require
saying?
all future Teslas.
You can also slope the
building code
driveway,
requires
you
you
can slope the
to
driveway facing
put
this way.
power source in the garage. If you have a garage, you have to put the power sources in the garage. That's in the code. So,
This one's a tough one.
just for the, so what, I'm asking again, what have you guys had
Oh,
for
well, we've had
concessions?
people like donate to the fire department and stuff like that.
Flipping the whole thing.
I have no problem donating to the fire department.
I can't tell you what.
Oh, okay.
He asked me what we had people do, okay?
Just
We've got in
because
trouble for that
If you
before, right?
notice,
Can't
this is-
flip the
Stuff
whole
like that.
thing?
No, because
Do it
of
180?
the uniqueness of this, if you see this is a typical house.
Right.
And they've got a pretty
You have to
unique
come in with a proposal
situation.
to
But you
us,
can't
like a
put this
written
here and this
proposal.
there, is what I'm
No,
saying.
because of the,
And then we can drive right into the garage.
You know, we have a
No,
YMCA.
it doesn't work
water,
because
we have
the way this
fire
house is
department.
set, and this is where it occurred.
Huh?
That's where it's all been designed and had it all work out. Can't fit.
There's no other way to redesign
There's nowhere
this.
else. Let me get, this line here,
Long skinny house?
this line here doesn't, that's your, we can't do anything with the house that way. And this line here
Right.
is your 75 foot, no house can go anywhere this way.
Right.
So we're stuck between here and here,
Right.
as close as we can be. So the only part was the driveway, making a usable driveway to come in here, and I thought, this is,
This part of it.
Yeah.
well, that totally takes the whole integrity of what they got inside this room,
Oh,
the
yeah.
windows and
Yeah.
porch and all that.
Right. You want what
But-
you want,
okay.
but you
I-
can't do what you want
Right.
and stick to it, you know what I'm saying?
I know, but it's pretty,
So getting all of those
this
within
is
this.
a
Well,
21 and a half
we can tell you
acre
what to
parcel.
do, but we can tell you that you gotta stay outside of that 50, and I don't have, I mean, without, I'm not an engineer. And there's been very few people that have, we've never really allowed it without some concession.
But it has been.
Well, I can't think of, there's a
Just
couple.
opening the table so that
Right,
you
yeah.
can.
I could pick a different house style, but I'd probably be divorced tomorrow, so.
So that's not it.
So what I'm saying though is.
I tried putting it here, because this piece gets all this backland. We don't want to cross, so we're not crossing, this car road goes, I've got a 1986 two-wheel drive Chevy pickup truck that I drove.
So I
the day of the
totally
summer.
get that, right? But to me, our job isn't to say, well, you really, really want it and
Oh, no, I
your wife really,
understand.
really wants it.
That's why I'm asking,
So
what
we'll go
can
ahead,
we
you know what I
do
mean?
Yeah,
To
what
me,
can we
it's
do
more
to
like,
offset it?
this is all good, this one somehow needs to be reconfigured, redesigned, reconsidered, something has to be redone.
So if I asked to put it on this part of the property and did a crossing,
Right, we can do that.
you can do that, so you feel that putting a crossing would be better than having it next to it?
We can't deny you access to upland. You have to.
Correct.
Right.
So could we not ask for a crossing and ask for a concession on, because we're not crossing
I know.
and we won't cross? I've had that happen in a few instances, just,
That's not a pre-existing lot, correct?
it's not a pre-existing lot, no, we created this,
That's too bad.
Yeah,
so we don't have that.
yeah, I'm thinking the same thing, it's too bad.
I mean, could we,
How much space do you?
we do have between this wetland here, there is an existing, pretty large stone wall, right where the closest point is. So there's a good natural barrier between the actual resource area and where we're proposing to work. So that's a pretty good concession too. That wall that's a pretty massive wall in there.
yeah, goes the whole line.
So we're not gonna touch any of that.
How much space do you
And-
need in that driveway apron outside of the garage?
Well,
Ideally from a
typically
functionality perspective.
you need at least 35 feet to be able to pull.
To pull in, right?
I can't, we got 3 feet, is that?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like 30 feet to there. So then if you go any shorter than that, he's gonna end up at the body shop every other day.
So, but if you redid the garage so that you drove in this end,
Well, then that brings the driveway coming over the septic, and we would try to avoid that too, because that's not
you
good.
would come in this way. That's, You know what I mean? Or,
You know,
I'm just saying. There's a lot of people who want, like, on the deck, I mean, this.
Oh, I understand.
for us, if we open Pandora's box,
Well,
It's
that's why I'm asking for some other concessions. If he puts a restriction that this area will never, we're never gonna try to develop this back here. Now, I don't wanna speak for you.
I don't
but
wanna develop.
If you don't wanna develop any more back here, you just preserve this entire
have we done that? Have we put a land restriction on,
21 acres.
Deed restrictions.
deed restriction, allowing into the 50-foot?
I don't think allowing into the 50-foot.
So is this only encroaching on a wetland that maybe
No.
could be redone, or
Buffer
is this?
Buffer zone.
Right, right, no, I understand,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Or is it actually, there's a danger of, again, the fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth house owner doing something that will actually impact the water table or the wetlands or the things that we're supposed to
They
be
Well,
doing?
there's
do
always that, you don't run
anything-
vehicles into the 50-foot.
Yeah,
If they do anything that's not shown on this plan, they're in violation, and they can be, as you, I heard you at the last meeting, they could be imposed
Yeah.
fines.
this
Not that
is,
that's what we wanna do, we don't wanna promote that, but
Just like you can never drive on a 50-foot buffer zone, just take your vehicle and drive on it,
yeah,
he'd be doing it every day.
right, exactly, that's why, yeah, I'm.
But it's-
Yeah, I have.
But
an
he's,
issue with that.
he's gotta be doing that right now, because that's where the path is.
So that's not,
Yeah, but
that's
there's
that's
nothing
not
there.
actual, it's a path that could overgrow and make you.
But he's not gonna have it overgrown, because that's what he's using to get to his land. That's been what, since you bought it, you've been using
Well,
it.
that doesn't matter, if it's inside the 50-foot,
Yeah,
if you drive on, we could say, leave it alone and let it regrow.
It pretty much wasn't
I
that.
don't wanna get into a
path, it was
contest on that, but it's, we're hoping to come up with a concession. What can we do to
Now,
help?
we like to give concessions, I don't see a concession on this right now.
Even restricting 20 acres of land and only one house will be built on it?
Oh, that's not uncommon.
That's a major one.
It is.
That's a good one, because there's this.
No, I'm not saying.
My job is to develop, cut properties into what the laws allow. There's a big piece of land here that's high and dry, that when we first came, I
We
go,
didn't
well, how
say-
many lots do you want?
We didn't say weren't gonna, that's not before us. What's before us right now is
Right.
you're in the 50-foot zone and we're telling you, we have not allowed it. in the
Well,
past.
if he moves this out, then we're gonna probably look and see if this other piece could also be developed to offset. I mean, that's so many things can be done. So if you restrict it, he's done. We won't be back. And that's a big undertaking. I'm throwing that out. I mean, that's a big thing to say. I'm not gonna do
We're not
anything.
saying you can't build there. We're saying come back with a different design out of the 50-foot zone, that's all.
That's,
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you're the architect or the engineer or
I'm the
whatever you
engineer.
are. Make it work. You just can't be in the 50-foot zone.
I mean, we gave concessions on these two. When they
Okay.
go in the
That's-
hyper with the garage.
that's,
Right.
let's.
So you gave concession on that first three, right?
These are all set.
Yeah.
So we'll look into making a,
There's gotta be a way to make it work.
you gotta get a smaller
Plenty of
path.
land there.
You start from
Twist it
scratch.
around,
We'll-
turn it, I
we'll
don't know
get-
what you're
Yeah,
doing.
we'll bring the driveway right up. We just gotta stay outside
Put your
this
house up
line.
here and septic back here.
Well, that's easily said, that's about a $8,000 change.
Why did you put it in until, before you?
Well, when we first started doing this, when did this, the 50-foot, these soil tests were done before this bylaw was even
This bylaw's been in place for at least 10 years.
10 years.
But they do perk tests.
Yeah.
To determine where they can.
Outside of,
Yeah, no, totally get that, right? But is that the only place that it
Yeah.
could go?
no,
No,
So,
but it's,
but we can't tell you where to put it.
Right,
That's
right.
the
Yeah.
really-
no, we got a place that fit, and this house happens to be a unique situation, so that's why we're here, we're asking. So I'm reading between the lines, stay out of these lines and come back.
You're starting with a blank slate, so there's gotta be a way to make it work.
yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Start from scratch.
I mean, we've had guys just twist and turn, whatever, just to stay. I know it's,
All right, so
The
we'll go
voters
back,
of
so,
this town voted
so
on
these,
50-foot no-touch zone, so we have to honor
yep,
what the voters.
I
voted.
understand. So these three, we're all set, and this one will come back, we'll continue this one.
Yeah.
okay.
That works, so if you guys gotta do it, so
We'll continue this.
So I need a motion to continue the hearing for lot
Lot
number
number-
5,
The lot number 5.
What was the date again?
April 9th.
We don't have anything closer than that? Or is that the next
We
time?
meet
That's
once
the
a
next
month.
meeting. You guys
Unless you like to endanger from using a loan or a grant or something, we've done that in the past where we'll have a second special meeting just for
Yeah.
that applicant generally.
No, that's,
Just generally.
it's the only house I'm ready to build, or I need to get built.
Not these
I
guys.
could care less about any of those, to be honest with you.
There's gotta be a way to make this work.
We'll kick the driveway out.
We've seen some very creative things.
We'll come back, we'll have it all ready. We'll bring it for you to take a look at also. And I understand.
So we would continue that one to the 9th at 6:15.
Can we get a motion? There was never a motion.
So moved.
Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye.
So now do you have to vote on each one of these, or is that already done?
Well, it's continued, so we'll.
Well, this was
Well, we
continued.
continue just that lot. So
We
we
can
can
we can continue just one lot?
Yep, it was written so that one could be continued and the others could be decided
Right,
upon.
so that we can, I'll offer a motion to approve the other 3 lots. There's 3 or 4. Right,
Okay. Yeah.
Can we get a second?
Did he do the
You
motion?
made a motion?
I second.
All in favor?
aye.
Chair votes aye.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Good luck with it, you'll figure it
Yes,
out.
we'll figure it
Thank
out.
you.
We have confidence in you.
Thank you very much.
See you tonight. Okay, now we're at new business. Discussion, conservation agent applicability of the National Wetlands Protection Bylaw for installation of utility power pole and wires in the wetland resource area.
Right. So we hanging around. We had one of these that had already come in. We actually got a second one today for a different location, also with National Grid.
Not for me, but
Right. No, it wasn't, because at first I was like, why? Oh, it's not.
yeah.
Yep.
So, just a little background, so National Grid is planning on doing a pole replacement project along Spring Street. So they're gonna be working with 85 existing poles, and installing some new poles as well. If you've driven along Spring Street, you know there's wetlands galore all along the street. So most of the work is exempt maintenance activities, the poles are being replaced. The anchors, National Grid does not consider the anchors, new anchors, to be substantial enlargement of an existing structure. Also, installing new poles within 10 feet of the road is exempt as a minor activity in buffer zone for the Wetlands Protection Act. But I contacted Dave Kuntz to just see what he thought about the local bylaw and how that relates to pole replacements and anchor replacements and then new poles when they're within 10 feet of the road.
Did you have any feedback?
He told me to come to the meeting and talk about it, so, he thought, well, so there is an exemption in the bylaw that exempts, maintenance activities for utilities. But it's whether or not new poles are considered maintenance of an existing utility.
I'm sure utilities fall under a special class of activities.
They do, and so at the, kind of from a DEP perspective, they don't really need to be here. The local bylaw, I guess it becomes a little questionable as to whether, you're gonna replace the whole string of poles, only one acre of one pole impacts the wetland. If that's considered maintenance by the board, then they're exempt. If that isn't considered maintenance, then they're not, and they would need to get permission.
My question would be, what are they providing power to? Are they existing structures? Are they for building new structures? Are they getting power to a new subdivision? Or?
It's like a new single family.
It's all within the existing line, except for they're going to be connecting, it's outside of, I'm pretty sure.
She's just replacing poles and then adding new poles.
Right,
I just wonder where the new poles are going to know if it's considered maintenance. If there's already power there, they're just gonna move it on a new.
It might be to support equipment, I'm not exactly sure, but they're all along Spring Street, they're not going into any like properties or anything.
This isn't a new run.
Yeah,
It's just a-
well, so there is one section, it's outside of jurisdictional areas, that's gonna be right at the town line, going, I think it's connecting to a solar deal, I'm not, so,
Okay.
I'm not
It's
super.
outside of jurisdiction, we don't need to
Right,
discuss
so
it.
the anchor that we're looking at, I guess, is part of an existing.
Right,
So it's considered maintenance.
Personally, in my opinion, I would say yes. but that's the board's decision. And
So
then that
where
would
does
trickle
it,
through.
where does it start and where does it end, do you know?
So it
About
starts at the.
There's a lot of Spring Street, has a lot of water.
Yeah,
You
so.
you have a map in
Yeah,
your
there's a
packet.
map.
I'm sorry.
It's toward the end.
Hey,
Go right to it.
that was an easy one.
So it's between the
Up
substation
one page
Okay.
back to your left, Kyle.
I have it.
and the town
Right
line.
before those are from the last. There you go.
So it starts at the substation and goes
Yeah.
towards.
Okay, so this
Okay,
is
so-
existing line, and they just wanna put an
They-
anchor.
So some of them, or most of it is going to be just replacing the poles that are there and maybe adding anchors to provide stability to those poles.
So when you say anchors, you talking like the guy wires?
Yeah, the guy wires. And then there are a couple places where they're gonna be adding poles. And like I said, extending to the solar field that's gonna be at the town line, I believe.
Is this the solar field that we've been meeting on?
No.
No.
it's new.
No. And at this point, there's, of this whole run, it's one anchor for one pole.
That's in wetland. Most of the poles are all within buffer zone because there's all wetlands.
Right, but I was concerned about like, right by Whitney's Pond, right at Spring Street and stuff like that, so
Yeah,
I'm
no.
good with it. I would say maintenance.
Okay. So
Oh,
what
it's
we,
exempt.
Right, then you're good.
okay. So we drafted a maintenance notification, that's what you guys have. So if you guys had agreed that it was exempt, we would submit this, signed.
Yep.
But we didn't want to submit it without first.
We agree it's exempt, what do you say, April? Think it's on the maintenance?
I will agree with you guys. We would like
Our
to-
opinion is that it's exempt. Under utility work,
I agree.
We can connect on Monday.
Sure.
In terms of what you want to see back, to kind of back up that board decision,
Okay.
a letter from the agent or what have you.
Mhm.
But that's, thank you for coming.
Yeah, no problem. Okay. Thank you. Oh, I didn't introduce myself. I'm Mary Zabotsky, by the way, from Time Bond.
Oh,
sorry, I overlooked that.
Sorry, I
I
forgot to
was
introduce
wondering,
myself.
I thought I had a thing here that said what your name was, and I'm like, but that's not what she said.
Yeah. I forget to introduce myself.
So our last item of new business is 162 Main Street.
So here, this is one David presented to me that there was a potential violation. I drove by, you can see there are a couple pictures at the end of your packet. I apologize if they've been photocopied enough times that they're looking slightly funky. And then you can see a couple pages before that is kind of the generic letter of concern that I had sent to the property owner, who very graciously came in and said, what are the primary concerns of the board? What are we, what are you looking for? And I wasn't entirely clear whether there were, whether it was kind of the white carport that you see that's a concern near the wetland, or whether it's other, kind of
Some clutter.
storage, or what it was that you're looking to have cleared up.
Well, what do you have out there?
What's that?
What's out there? It's kind of hard to tell by the pictures. I know what the property is.
I just put some oak logs that I'm gonna be splitting up for firewood. I'm on disability, so I use a wood stove to heat my
Okay.
house.
Well, I'm looking at like,
Right there,
yeah,
and that's a temporary fabric garage that I bought
okay.
last
What's in
year.
that garage?
Right now, just some, a four-wheeler and a couple of things, but I fixed my truck in there.
Okay, and what about, I see a vehicle here, maybe another vehicle there. Are those vehicles running or are they just parked there?
The Grand Prix, I'm putting a transmission in, that's registered and insured. And I do have a parts truck here, and I just applied for a permit, so I have a little more time.
Okay.
I'm getting rid of it in a month or two, because there's only 2 parts left on it that I need to take out, and then I can get rid of that. And there's just some clutter stuff that I really need to clean up now, the weather's better.
Any like oil cans, gas cans,
Nothing,
hazardous waste stuff?
no, nothing that would contaminate anything. It's just wood.
wood and the log splitters right there.
So I was.
In a couple of weeks, I'll have the wood all split up
How
and
did,
stacked.
Allison, did this,
Yes.
how did this come before us?
Dave brought it to my attention, I don't know how it came to him.
Okay.
You know, you can see too on the, before the photos on the back of the letter is another kind of map. And really, the whole parcel is.
The whole length, yeah, the whole property.
You know, there's a extreme amount of wetlands, and then the whole thing is within the 100-foot buffer, so. Probably really looking at it, the whole parcel is within a 50-foot buffer. So I wasn't really sure what we were targeting in terms of.
I was gonna say, so it's an existing residential structure.
Right.
Yeah.
I'd like to, personally, I'd like to take a site walk down there. And I'd like to just take, I know where it is.
Yeah.
And matter of fact, I'm gonna be working there Monday, right on that road.
Oh, yeah.
Right there, right at the, what people call the old clam shack.
Oh, the water main leak?
Yep. So, will you be home?
Tomorrow? Or Monday?
Monday. What do you work during the day?
I'm on disability, so.
When I have a break, I'll do a knock and talk, and we'll take a site walk, and we'll see. And what I'm looking for is if there's no real hazardous materials and stuff like that. He has no room to work with anything, so
Yes.
I think that'd be, we'll see what it is, okay?
Okay.
So do you guys want to then talk about this again? It's not a hearing, so we don't need to continue it, but I can
Right.
keep it on the agenda for the next meeting to just follow up and close the loop.
Sounds good.
Maybe
I'll
maybe we
look
can
at
make
it
some
Saturday.
suggestions for you, you gotta get the power out of there, or something, anything that's leaking oil or anything like that.
Yeah.
That would concern us, okay?
Okay.
Do you mind if I come along, or at least meet you there on
That'd
Saturday?
be good.
Kind of
That'd
see
be
what
fun.
you do.
Yeah, sure.
That is all that's on the agenda.
All right, look who's back.
Yeah. I have something real
That
quick.
was a quick read,
Just
Well, it was,
Um,
as we were walking down the
So
side,
I'm sorry, you're done, you're okay?
Oh, excuse me?
No, you're done, you're okay? I'm asking
Yes.
you, did we just cut you off, or?
No, I'm fine.
Oh, okay.
Okay,
Monday, I'll see you Monday.
okay.
All right, thank you.
I wasn't quick enough to ask this, I know the hearing and all
The
that.
hearing's been continued and blah, blah, blah,
There's
blah.
no way we can,
So what I would recommend is that perhaps after we end the meeting, if you want to talk with one of the board members, so we
I
don't
only
have
think
any
it's
quorum
hoping
issues.
we could retract it maybe, just a timing, because like Sean
Like I said,
said.
we wouldn't really break ground until May with the 2-week hearings and, you know.
Yeah.
So,
Very
one
easy
year
fix.
appeal period, it throws them into the middle of May before you can
Oh,
break
we've never had this
ground.
happen before, so I don't know
So
what
I
to
think
do.
what she's saying is there's an issue with the
Process.
legal process.
Exactly.
Right,
What
and
can we
it's
do
happened as we go-
to help
as happens all-
Well, want to hear what I was asking, and then we
We
can decide
can't.
what we
Well,
can do.
wait a
can't.
minute, I think if we adjourn, one of us leaves, then he can ask us questions. Then there's
No, but then it
no.
doesn't do us any good, because you can't make a decision.
Well, that's the
Right.
problem,
Yeah,
that's the
right.
legal issue,
Huh?
right?
Only one of them,
Yeah,
quorum wise, I mean,
I think they want a decision tonight though, and
yeah,
that's,
that
can't
can't
give it.
happen.
And we can't do that.
All right, well, anyway, we'll be back, but we gotta wait.
All right,
Didn't even
very
take it
good.
up.
Thank
We
you.
were hoping. Thank you.
Thanks.
That's all.
Motion to adjourn? Second.
I agree.
Second.
Second. Why do you do that? I think
I'm
you're
coaching you.
saying I second, I'm like, yeah, okay.
I'm coaching you without coaching. I'm not telling you what to say, I'm saying this is what we're looking for.
I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye.
I just,
The camera, or, yeah, turn off the camera.
No, when you look at me, you're like,